talk, so you can't even understand what the hell they're saying. At the end of the day, they know nothing about real estate. Because the first thing they love to give you is Case-Shiller. Oh, I love Case-Shiller. First of all, if you just heard the Case-Shiller report, it was in January. We are almost now April. Nothing that happened in January means diddly in April in the real estate market, all right? And they're going to tell you that basically there's a national real estate market. There is no national real estate market. What happens in Fargo, North Dakota doesn't affect Concord, California. And if I took a house in Concord, California, and I moved it to Fargo, North Dakota, it would go from $300,000 to $49.28, and when you died it would be $42, and who cares, because nobody wants to live in Fargo, North Dakota. So how can there be a national real estate market? And yet that's what they keep quoting you. Then they give you CAR, California real estate. We are north, central, and south. We don't even like each other half the time. So how can what happens in the north be the same as what's happening in the Central Valley? It makes a difference. So the first thing we have to say is, look, real estate is local, and that's the way it is. But now here's what's happened that's changed. Real estate now has become very tiered and very complex. And you have to understand what you're doing in different pockets of the real estate market in order to be a winner. So let me talk about first why I think it's absolutely aligned to buy real estate. Let's talk about it, not with all the community in the school district. That's always there. Of course you buy that. But you can go rent a house and get into the school district. You can rent a house in Concord. You don't need to buy it. So why would you buy it versus renting it? Because it's going to be a path for the average consumer to build wealth. Listen to what I just said. It's your path to build wealth. You're not going to be able to buy Apple stock at $700. You're not going to be able to buy gold at $1,500 a bar. You're going to be able to buy a home now inexpensively because it's affordable now. They've come down to 2002 prices. Everybody says, oh my God, isn't that terrible? Well, it's terrible if you bought in 2005, but it's not terrible if you're coming in the market today. Because if you're coming in the market today, you're back, or 6% if you've gone back, would have put the price today. So you're actually where you should be. All that puff came out of the top. So if you're buying, you're in a very good position. Now, if you're selling and you bought in 2005, not such a good position, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So first of all, it's affordable. Secondly, now, the bank's going to make you have a FICO score. They're going to make you put some money in. They're going to make you have a job. That protects you because you're a good borrower now. And now you own part of that property, and the bank just can't take it away from you so easily now because you sit at the table with some kind of ownership. And here's the magic of what's happening with real estate now. When you took out a 30-year loan and you paid 7% interest, you had 9% go to equity in that mortgage payment you made every month. And all the rest went to the bank in interest, and they just love that. Now today, when they have to give you that loan at 3.8 or 4%, 27% of every monthly payment that you make goes to equity, and only the rest goes to interest to the bank. That means even if the property doesn't appreciate, every month you get the privilege of living there, plus you're gaining wealth because you're going to own more of that property. Now you plunk that out over 3 to 5 years, you're not going to own 25% of that property. You're going to own 30% of that property. That just builds wealth for you, and you got to live in it. Now, what other asset does that for you? Now, what else? If it's residential real estate, you get something called the 121. The 121 means that when you sell it, if you're single, you get $250,000 tax-free, and if you get basically married, you get $500,000. Now, let's talk about capital gains, because, see, that's what we're talking about. It's the only asset I know that you get that on. The other is basically, you know and I know, capital gains are going up. It was in the paper today. They want to raise it from 15 to 20%. They want to put a millionaire's tax on it, but they define millionaire as anybody that makes $250,000 or over. Well, see, in California, that doesn't make you a millionaire. That just makes you middle, but they don't care. So now you're going to pay an extra 5%, and many of you don't know this. But in that wonderful health care law, have you ever read any of it? It's 2,000 pages long. I actually started to read it. I got to page 86, and I thought I was going to kill myself. Now, let me tell you why. It is the most confusing bill, and I will guarantee you, I would love to put every senator and every congressman, no matter what party they are, up here on this stage and ask them to tell me what's in that bill. Not one of them read it. Not one of them understand it. Their aides don't understand it either. Because what happens when you read it, it starts to say something, and then it says this applies unless paragraph 4 on page 3. So you go back to paragraph 4. Well, that applies unless you're at paragraph 5, which is on page 386. So So you go to 386 and it says, well, nothing applies based on this now. It's the most confusing thing I've ever read. However, there is one thing in it called the 3.8% tax. Now, let me tell you what that is. Everyone says, oh, well, that's a health care. No, it's not. That's a real estate tax on capital gains, and here's how it works. Starting in 2013, if they do not change that part of the bill, if you have any passive income you don't earn but you get, so that would be basically capital gains on real estate, rents, dividends, anything like that, you are going to pay an extra 3.8% capital gain tax if you earn more than $250,000 or if your appreciation in what you sell or transfer is more than $250,000. So now you're 15 to 20, 20 to 25 if you're a millionaire, 25 to 30% capital gain tax if you go under the 3.8% tax. So at the end of the day, real estate is the only one I know that basically gives you some at least free. And also, at the end of the day, as with residential real estate, you still have what we call the interest deduction, which everybody thinks is dollar for dollar. It's not. It's based on the percentage of the tax that you pay, but the government allows you to deduct the interest up to a certain amount against what you pay on home ownership. So at the end of the day, let's compare it now to another asset, because let's define an asset. An asset is a vehicle that you invest in, that you hope will appreciate over time. Now, three things have to be positive for it to appreciate, not depreciate: time, value, and money. So now, let's talk about this real estate market. And everybody says, oh my God, look what happened to it. Well, first of all, I don't think real estate did anything wrong. I think it's what people did to real estate that was wrong. Because let me tell you why. The value of real estate is always in the land. See, I was up in Stockton the other day, and you can buy a house up there for $107,000. You can buy one for $87,000. 7,000 square feet, absolutely gorgeous, marble, Korean, basically beautiful hardwood bamboo floors, a spa, a swimming pool, gated community, absolutely wonderful. All boarded up and nobody wants it. Now you move it down here and you know it's going to have a different value. See, nobody wanted to go up there, or if they did, they wanted it as an investment. No infrastructure up there. Gas is now $4 or $5 a gallon. They got a problem. They had 75% foreclosures. So it isn't the house, because where you move the house, that's nice. It adds or detracts from the value. Always remember this: location, 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 value, 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 land, land, land. Now see, you're lucky, because you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the land in Concord or wherever you're from, it's very valuable here because it's limited. You're not going to get any more of it because supply and demand, you always have more demand than supply. Oh, and by the way, you have areas that when you try to build something, they say to you, wait a minute, you got to go before the board, you got to go to the development department, you got to do this, you got to do that. So one, it has to have value. Now see, what happens at the real estate market is, where were the areas that everybody ran to that went crazy? Oh my God, they ran to Las Vegas, more land than the eye can see. Oh, build it and they'll come. Well, they built it and nobody came. Only people go there to gamble and then they go home at the end of the day. So one, you have to have basically where it's valuable. And they ran to where other places? Oh, Florida and Texas, the Central Valley, all these places where it wasn't valuable enough to begin with to hold it. And then because everybody was running in the same direction, it went up 20, 30%. Now when it went down, it didn't only go down 20%, but it went down 50 or 60 because